So yeah, so today will be if we want all we want all of us to enjoy today's session and this evening session, and the best way to enjoy it is not to do it during this as the pastor is doing it. It's just for that all of us just follow, get a paper and a biro and jot things down. The terminology that I don't understand, put it in the chat board. I don't understand this. I don't understand this. Why do we have to clean the data? But if you are doing it the way, if you are doing it at the same time, it's going to drag us. Maybe some systems are not working, so all of that. But during the hackathon, we have that capacity to work with everybody on that day. But today, it's just for us to see how this thing works, from problem identification, from how to clean your data, how to prompt, how to train it, all of that. Our guest speaker is going to took us through. So our guest speaker today is someone who is a friend of mine. I think I just knew her maybe 4 or 5 months now. So she had PhD in generative AI. So she understands it from Robert Gordon University. So today's title is to how do we is to teach us building an AI solution from the scratch. When we say from the scratch, this event tonight is meant for people that are not even in tech. It's meant for people that just does not know anything about tech, but somebody just meant for people that can solve problem. And this event, if you want to title it, is what we call vibe coding. That just coding, just speaking to a code and telling the code this is what I want you to do, and the LLMs and GNL will give you the result. You look at it, you tweak it, all of that. So it's just more of a reasoning, and that's all of this all about. So, Dr. Regina, are you in? Dr. Regina, are you
Yes,
in?
yes,
Yeah.
please, I'm
So,
here.
yeah, as I will bring you on. So, uh, one of the things I want to happen in this hackathon, the main purpose is to create jobs. 2 days ago, we have delegate of Estonia in Aberdeen, and Estonia have created 10 unicorns. And we're told that the 11th unicorn is coming from, and what were doing was that they were thinking from global from day one. So we don't want this our learning to be in waste. We want it that whatever we learn from this event should be able to turn to a startup, just as I said at the beginning, and so we're able to create jobs. And we don't need to leave our Aberdeen or some people that join from Edinburgh, from Glasgow. We don't need to travel to the US. Tallinn is smaller than Edinburgh or Glasgow. It will just double the size of Aberdeen. And those guys will sit down for where they are, pick a global problem, solve it locally, and scale it up. The guy who built boats that people are using all about and he scaled it to Europe and African market, he did not even step into Africa until a year after. He did everything on tech on remote basis, and they share some of their secret to us 2 days ago in Aberdeen, and I think that's one of the things that is gingering us also to do this thing well. Yeah. So over to you, Dr. Regina, our speaker tonight. Yeah. So you can share your screen now. Hello.
Yes, hello.
Yeah. So you can share your screen now.
So, okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Sheung. Okay, um, let me just share my screen and please do let me know if you can see my screen.
We can't see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Yes, we can see. Yes. Yes, you can make it in this. Oh yeah, that's fine. Okay.
yes, hello, everyone. Um, like Dr. Sheung rightly said, my name is Regina, and I'll just be taking us through, how to build AI solution from scratch. And like he said, this is more of a beginner's guide to help um us to be able to know, okay, when someone talks about AI, what should I expect? How do I build an AI product? What are the processes to go through? So that's the basic idea behind it. Sorry, let me turn my camera on. That's the basic idea behind it. Now, moving on, I'll just give a brief intro about me, just so you know where I'm coming from. So I recently finished my PhD in AI. So where I was focusing on applying generative AI to solve medical related issues. Currently my postdoc is still in generative AI, but this time for conversational AI systems, trying to get around it, how to be able to improve their reasoning bit. Um, I've also worked as a researcher also at Huawei, but I was working in their reasoning department. I've also worked when it comes to AI, also working with the ethical bits like the trustworthy AI. I've worked as a data scientist, also worked with different modalities, and because of my medical background, I've also worked at a research center back in Ghana. So, having said all this, right, what's really the objective of today's presentation? What do I really want to help us achieve, or the hackathon that has been given on to us? The main idea is to be able to help everyone on this call to know the essential steps. So when it comes to building AI-based products, right? How do I go about it? What are the steps? And trust me, in today's world, when it comes to building AI-based products, you don't really need to know the coding bits. Now, the important part is you knowing the steps, the essential steps. So, what this presentation will do to help us is we will now cover data sources, how to clean your data, how to train your data, how to deploy, and then probably as time goes on, we'll just look at some advanced methods as well. And like Dr. Shane said, it's mainly designed to help beginners, right? So you don't necessarily have to know like the hands-on skill bit of it, but as a beginner, it would help you know the necessary steps. And then also for those trying to, explore advanced AI method, there are also some inputs in there where to go to the computational stuffs you need. So basically, it's just a guide right from conception on up onto deployment. So having said that, just in today's world, we know AI, and then even now, people are gearing towards artificial general intelligence, right? So when you read books now, people talk about the general intelligence bits, not just the AI bits. What is even it, right? So it's basically having to induce intelligence into any system artificially. Gone are those days when you talk about AI, we think it's some robots taking over the world, some sci-fi stuffs. But then now anything that has intelligence in it, that is able to think the way, able to act or reason like the way we do as humans, is an AI based product. So it can be a system, a service, anything, right? And the main thing with respect to AI is its ability to learn, reason, like the way humans we do also understand. And we have lots of AI around us. So ranging for our smartphones, our smartwatches, our voice assistants. Now there are Bible apps that when I see them, I'm like, oh wow, AI-based recommendation Bible apps. We have, our tracking system, GPS, the Netflix we use, the Spotify's, our email. So just AI all around us, right? But back to the economic factors. I was reading an article, and then now it's been projected that as at 2030, with respect to the UK, AI is going to contribute to 10% of its, economical growth, and then also to help businesses in terms of productivity, 64%. And then it is expected to also create, jobs. So there are going to be newer jobs coming out of AI with respect to manufacturing, So the whole thing now is AI is the future. And I keep telling my, the group around me that in some years to come, AI is going to be like a soft skill that people must have, right? Because it is around us and clearly the future. So, having said all these things, right? I know that when ChatGPT came out, this AI breakthrough, people were just asking, okay, how was ChatGPT built? How was this, right? For honestly, those of us within that space, right? Okay, we knew the brain behind it. We knew, oh, okay, so this were the various processes they went through. But I'm sure it was a question, that people would ask, how come, something that can really reason, just like human, you can ask it anything that you want to, right? So basically, like I said, it's just to give us the essential steps when it comes to building AI, services, products, anything that has, the reasoning, the prediction, the perception bit behind it. And the essential steps, one, for the purpose of this presentation, we are going to really cover, just the essential steps. It starts with conceptualizing the idea. So what am I even trying to solve? What is the problem that I want to go with? And then now having defined that, the second bit is, okay, can we outsource? Where can we outsource data? Where can we collect data? Because data is very essential. And then now people say it is the new oil when it comes to building AI products. We can't do without data. And then the third stage is, now that we have gotten the data, how do we clean the data? How do we pre-process the data? So like the adage goes, garbage in, garbage out is so true of building any AI-based products. The quality of your output always depends on the quality of the data input that you have used to train the model. So the data cleaning and the pre-processing stage, it's very essential. Getting the data, having to clean the data, and then having done that, the next stage has to do with trying to select the data. Okay, so trying to train the model, select the appropriate model, and then evaluate the model, right? So that is also another step. So just like ChatGPT, there was an idea behind it, and of course, it had to be trained on, I don't like lots and lots of data, millions of data. And then those data were not just trained, but then there was a pre-processing bit, which I'll talk about, and then a particular AI model selection, having to train the model, evaluate to know that, okay, the model is now performing well, and then the deployment stage. I'll talk about each of them as we go on. And then for more advanced, okay, it's more okay, having to deploy, you now have to monitor the health of the AI model, and there are also tools for that. And then having to scale the model. So with time, so all the latter two are more advanced based approaches. Now let's look at the detailed, the in each step, right? So the steps that I have listed, the five important steps, right? Now let us look at how each of them come to play when we are crafting or trying to build an AI solution. So the very first one is always, like I said, having to clearly define the problem. So if you want to go to a place and you don't have clearer direction, it will not, you can't even get to that place, either it slows you down, so it's always to have a clear definition of what you want to do. So every AI app, or product, it starts with a clear problem. What do you want to solve? Are there some checklists you want to do? So I found this and I want to share with us, as many of us that can, open it, let me just share it in the chat box. Okay. Okay. Yes, so I've shared it with us. It's a drive that I saw. It's a project management drive that I saw, and it's very good. Like it has how to clearly come up with a project, outline, and how to identify your KPIs, your deliverables, what you want, like so it just outline it, and then I'll just have a short breakout and show how that work, right? So some of the questions or the food for thought is, okay, what AI tax am I considering? Who is it for? Like, what particular tax am I trying to do? So am I looking at a classification tax, anomaly detection? Am I trying to generate text? So these are some brainstorming just at the initial stage, right? Is it a recommendation system? So those are some of the things that we need to ask when doing it. So this is the drive I just shared, right? Yeah, it has this project chapter, and I'm sure those of us in the project management field, like we may use it one way or the other, but I found that helpful, right? So how to list like the project requirements. So given a particular problem, say I want to do AI for maybe mental health, right? Okay, it's just an idea, but then how do I flesh it out, in a more appropriate way that can help me achieve what I want to. So this is a project charter that helps you. Okay, what are my project objectives? What are my deliverables? My stakeholders? Are there some ethical things I need to consider? What are the people going to be directly involved? What is going to be their roles and responsibilities? So these are things that we need to think about when it comes to planning that. So this is just, having said that, this just like a short breakout session. Like, I just want us to pause and then reflect, and then see how it works. So Sean gave me this particular idea. He said, okay, let's just consider an idea when it comes to AI for food security. So the whole idea is we want to now we want to have an AI system that is able to help with food management, right? So, just a small flesh of the problem is that people spend long hours. Sorry, food are being wasted, causing environmental like issues like food insecurity for those that need it. So the whole idea, just a summary of the idea, right, is to help develop an AI system that can help manage food waste in a way that, okay, it can be able to help inventory, optimize inventory. So this is just a skeleton, right? And I'm sure as the hackathon we go, we'll just have a simple problem, maybe, okay, ai for AI for personalized education, AI for something, right? Just a skeleton, right? Now, having done that, I know that, okay, my niche is that I'm looking at AI for food waste reduction. Now, I the next thing that to do is now to really sit down and then flesh out, okay, what are the, following the project charter. So what are the objectives that I want to do? What are the the stakeholders, trying to list all those out. So what I did, and like I said, in today's world, right, one doesn't really have to be technical, know the coding bit when it comes to building such solutions. It's just about, okay, knowing the right prompt that I'm going to use, what I am going to do to be able to help me. So this is a prompt that I use personally, and I'll just be switching, between the slides, and then some of these LLM based apps, right? So this is the prompt that I have. That's okay, whether ChatGPT or whichever, I want you to tabulate, my project idea. And like I said, I'm going with this project charter, dependent on which one that you want to go. Now, can you list for me, like, I want to know the business case, the objectives, what are going to be the deliverables, and all those ones. And I also want you to add statistics to it. So imagine that I'm pitching to someone, right? What shows that it is a much of a problem. So what I do, and this one I do it in real life, right? So what I mostly do is I always use like multiple generative AI platform, and my my best one is Grok, right? So I use Grok and Perplexity. So those are my two go-to. So why I like those ones is with the free version, it does give you better responses compared to some of the ones that you have to pay. So like you can see that I have it's open. I have Perplexity. I have ChatGPT open as well. So this is ChatGPT, and then I have Gemini open. I have Gemini open as well. Yes. So what I did, right, based on the prompts that I have here, is that just copying this and telling it to, okay, can you give me my deliverables and my stakeholders, all the ideas from the project charter, and then adding the problem that I want to solve from it. So for instance, let me just cite so having done that, right, I did it because I don't want to be typing it as the presentation is going on, just for network, technical issues, right? So it now lists, okay, based on the problem that you have done on the food waste, these are the this is your business case, this is your project objective, this is your major deliverables, your stakeholders, my ethics, my assumptions, my rules, my responsibilities, like the people that needed, right? And then the justification, and then finally it tells me, okay, this is some reward, so if I want to pitch, like, what shows that what I'm solving is much of an issue, right? Now, this is a good starting point. So why I brought that in, that it is a good starting point to just help you outline what you really need. Now, the same thing. So you realize I use the same prompting in here for all the AI based applications that I have open, right? So using the same thing for Grok now tells me, okay, these are your business case, your project, and then it goes on and on and on, right? So it goes and it tells me. So all that I need to do as an individual is now to sit down, bring all those ideas together, and then have a unified format, right? Please, are we following? I just want to pause here. Are we following, please?
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you
we're
very much,
following.
Regina. Uh, yeah, are we following? Because what she has just done is just to explain the first step. Are we following? Maybe, Dr. Regina, maybe can you throw a question to on the chat box to see whether they are following? Just one or two or three questions.
Okay, okay. But then I just want to be sure. Like, are we
Okay.
like following? Yes. So if we have a problem, can we be able to use this Gen AI stuff that we have to be able to flesh all those things out. So that's what I just wanted to do. Oh, sorry, my camera is not on. Oh, this one. Interesting. Okay. Yes. Okay. Sure. So yeah, let me continue sharing my and please let me know if you can see my screen. And please, can you see my screen? Okay. Sure. Okay. So let's move on. So having said that, I think I'm getting some echoing. I'm not sure if it's from my end. Okay, so please let's continue. Yes. So having said that, right, you can use the same prompt and then better still just add up things like you can be country specific. Okay, so say I just want it in the UK, the US, dependent on what you want to do. So that's how the first part can be sourced. Now let's move on to the very second one. And then, like I said, data is so important when it comes to building any AI based app, right? Now let's look at data, right? Like I said, high quality data is always garbage in, garbage out, right? So if you provide the AI model with a good source of data, you should be able to get your high quality data coming you should be able to get that coming out, right? Now data can be sourced from a whole lot of places. Then the question now is, how then do we get data? Looking at, okay, the ethical bit, the protocols involved, especially for getting like private data. And I do know that depending on the uniqueness of the task that you want to solve, data outsourcing data can be quite hectic. But then believe you me, especially when it comes to AI machine learning based projects, there are loads and loads of data that can be a good starting point for what you want to do. So for instance, and then I'll show us some data sources that we can go. So for instance, we can scrap the web, right? So web scrapping, or go to the internet. And that was how come bigger models like ChatGPT, like Meta, Llama models, that was how they were trained. And like I said, you really don't have to know how to code. You can just go to your prompt and say that, okay, I want to scrub the web from this particular internet, and then your generative model gives you the code, right? And then there are also Twitter APIs, APIs like Twitter, you can openly scrap data from there. But what I want to show us, especially when it comes to building AI based projects, are some publicly available data that they are there for us, for us to use. And there are lots and lots of sources of them. So one is Kaggle, one is GitHub, right? So GitHub is not just for those of us that are a bit tech savvy. GitHub is not just a place you can go and dump your code. People also have real world data. I've used data from GitHub to build real world products before. So there are lots and lots of data around us. We have some machine learning repo. You just go and then you type the project idea that you have found. And then we have other governmental, so being it US, being it UK, so dependent. I just wanted to list loads and loads of places you can go to. So we have the Google data search, the government of UK, then you go. So as long as it does align to what you want to do, right? So having said that, right, the key takeaway from this particular point is that now that we know, okay, we have our problem, we have our objective, we have what we want to do, then why don't we use still bending on this gen models like ChatGPT, Grok, and Grok, like I said, the Grok and Perplexity are just my favorites, especially with the freer version. Right? It gives more advanced, outputs. And Claude or DeepSeek, depending on which one you want, using it as a starting point for the data set that you want, right? So in our case, so I'm going back to my code, right? So to my Gen AI platform, right? So now I know what I want to do. I know my objective. I know my deliverable. So just for the purpose of this, the main objective, I'm just selecting one, is to just build an AI model that can help with predictive analysis, for inventory management, and then as well, so that they don't overproduce stuffs for spoiling. So that's the one objective that I'm settling on. And then that this major deliverable deliverable, it should be a web application that is going to help this food business. So just keeping this in mind, right? Now, having said that, the next stage that I want is to get data. So you realize that here I'm using a prompt. So I'm saying that, okay, ChatGPT or Perplexity or whichever, can you now tell me where I can get, real world open source data, right? That actually meets. So then the key concept is me saying that, okay, it should really meet my objective and then my major deliverables. And then I also want to know how to use those columns. So if you search the web and you find relevant data, just don't give me it, but make sure it meets my objectives, and then how I can use all those column. And clearly here you see that that is what I did, right? So making a search through loads and loads of the internet, trying to get me, okay, what are the data sets that are indeed peculiar to what I want to do. So for instance, it tells me that there is a data set called the food reduce data set, right? So it tells me that I click on it and it's on GitHub, and then it tells me that for that particular data, this is how it meets my business case and then my objective. It can help me identify, the surplus food demands, and it lists other like a whole lot of others. So it depends on my creativity. It depends on what I want to do. It's for me to now sit down and say that, okay, these are the data sets as a good starting point, right? These are the data sets that are, to the web, right, are relevant to what I want to do. Then going through. So another instance again. So I'm still going through Grok as an example, right? So you see, I'm using the same prompting throughout for all of them, and then it tells me some available data set that I could go with. So it tells me there is the FL database, that I could access it. So now everything depends on me and then what I now want to do. And I do the same thing for ChatGPT, and I'm like, okay, can you tell me, right? I make it search through the web, and then it's now list some publicly available data sets, right? So it tells me, okay, you know it also suggests the same data set that some other AI-based models have suggested to me, right? And then it tells me some other one. So like I said, it's now up to me for me to decide on, okay, which particular data set that I want to go with, right? So just a quick one for today's presentation, right? The data set, from looking at all the ones that the Gen AI model has suggested for my prompt is, okay, it gave me the food reduction data set on GitHub, and then there is one to on Kaggle, and then it also gave me an image detection. Or I could just, look at a blend of both. So everything now depends on me sitting down to really know um what is relevant. So the next stage is, now I have selected the data set that I want, right? So the one I use for training, which I would want to show us, is I selected the Kaggle, the one on Kaggle, and then the one on GitHub, from what the span of LLMs has suggested for me. So me going to the one on Kaggle, I'll just show you. So this is the one on Kaggle, and then this is the one on GitHub. So on GitHub, right, I come and then I look at the data set. So the data set it is indeed the food reduced data set. It has some test, some trained data sets, and then I just have a look through the data sets, just to really read whether it is really relevant. And when I did read, it was indeed relevant to what I want to do. So the only thing I need to do is just to download the data set and then now start training the AI model, right? By cleaning it, and processing it. Similarly for the Kaggle as well, right? So this was the data set that the link that was suggested. So similarly, I just come, then I download the data set that I want to go. So now I have a good starting point for what I want to do, right? So those were the two data sets that I settled on. Now before like I pause and then we start going to the third one, another thing that is relevant is, okay, now I've settled on two data sets. I really want to still be sure that, okay, these data sets are meeting my objectives and deliverables. So you see, I'm still asking it that, okay, what are the benefits I can get from both data sets? Like, how does it meet it? I keep asking, because what's the essence of having a project objective and then you finish an AI project and it doesn't, you've not done anything, right? So the whole concept was now to write another prompt, and then back to Grok, right? Back to Grok. So the same prompt within the slide. Now I begin to ask it that, okay, so these are the two data sets that I did settle on, right? So I really want to know which columns are important. So trying to really get a hold of the data, because the data is very, very important, right? And then now, interestingly, it starts telling me, okay, how those data really meet my project objectives and deliverables. And like I said, for the purpose of this week, I just focus on trying to help inventory, right? Trying to optimize their inventory. So having a model that can be able to predict, such that they don't overload themselves, right? So now it goes on to look at the data set that I have, and then it starts telling me that, okay, with the data set that you have, right? For the very first one, how does it really meet your objectives? There is a particular column in there that you can be able to predict, that should help you, identify, okay, how well the company is doing in terms of sales, so depending on the company, such that they don't produce excesses, so in that I'm achieving a part of my objectives. And then for the surplus, it comes to tell me that, okay, there are some, incomplete columns. So this is just giving me an idea of still trying to meet what I have said early on, right? And then when it comes to the second data set, even clearly when I went through, I did realize that the second data set didn't have what I was looking for. So, and it was true, like it didn't have what I was looking for. So then I can reconsider certain things. So I'm just priming our creativity, that, see, where the world is going, it's really about knowing what to do, the right steps. And then now you don't really have to learn how to code, because once you know the right steps, everything will just fall within that, right? And then it does the same thing for the other objectives, right? So it tells me that, okay, if you look at the sales in that food column, you should be able to predict, and potential surplus. Then it goes on and on. So now I can now boil down and know, okay, now the particular data set, the particular column I want to predict, and how it feeds back into my objectives, right? So out of that, I can now move ahead and start training my model. So we now go to the very third part of it, that is having to clean and then pre-process the data. So I just want to pause here, and then just to be sure whether we are following, if things are okay with us, or if there's any question anyone wants to ask.
Yeah, thank you so much. So can we ask, maybe can we ask questions? Please, let's ask questions. Please, let's ask questions. And if we follow what Dr. Regina is doing, she just putting on prompt, just prompt, and prompt are just how can I explain prompt now? Like asking questions. Like I'm working on this. What kind of data do I need to use? You just put the prompts on some of those AI, Gen AI, and based on what she has said, we have Grok, we have which one? We have Grok, Perplexity AI, we have ChatGPT, and there's what we call Cloud, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's Cloud actually, but she's using Grok and Perplexity AI. So if I would have thrown a question, I would have asked which one is she using. Please, let's ask question. Please, let's ask question. We have 1 minute to ask question before we move on. Please, let's ask questions. So, but if you get it to where she has reached, can you type yes in the comment section? If everybody follow to where the stage where she has reached, can we type in the comment section? Can we have more yes? Can we have more? We are 19 on this platform, so can we have more yes? So that we are sure that it's not 19 AI we have human being, right? So let's yeah, can we have more? If you follow, just say yes. I think you can continue.
Okay. Okay. So yes. So thank you so much. Um, let me share my screen again. I'm coming just a second. I'm just trying to share my screen. Okay, so someone just asked a question that yes, I said you don't need to learn how to code. Okay. So yes, so what I actually meant was that, gone out were those days that for someone to really build an AI product or come up with any, let's say, machine learning or any predictive model, you really have to know the technicalities. Okay, so much more. Okay, when it comes to Python, I have to learn how to write my functions. I have to learn how to, I have to, how to really, really, really write the code, right? But now, even me within that field, I have realized, and then that is not just me, also with my circle of friends, that it's more of knowing what to do, right? So I know that if I have my data, I've gotten my data. The next stage is okay, how do I clean the data? So, me knowing how to clean the data helps me to be able to prompt an LLM to help generate that code. So, instead of me having to rack my brain around it, okay, and I'll talk about it. So, I think that really feeds back into our next slide of focus, how to clean the data. Hopefully that should help answer that. So let me share my screen again. Yes, and please, I hope you can see my screen. So just to that help answers that, right? So now we have gotten the data, we know the particular columns that are relevant to us and what we want to do. Now the question is, how do we clean the data, right? There are lots and lots of data pre-processing and cleaning methods that someone would go with, right? So thinking of, okay, how do I look at missing values? How do I look at outliers? How do I look for inconsistency? Data formatting. So for instance, so how this Gen AI models were trained, in to cite an example, like ChatGPT was trained, was data was scrapped from the web. Having gotten the data, they didn't just go ahead to train the model. No, there was a bit of data formatting, like trying to remove HTML tags, trying to format the data into a particular um trying to get the data into a particular format. So for instance, if they are both upper cases and lower cases, how do we get all the text to be in just a lowercase? So those are some data formatting and then pre-processing methods, right? And if it's in the scale of numerical data, which in our case, the data that I downloaded, I'll show you later on. writing the code in Colab, how do we get how do we scale that so that you don't have some data far off from the other. So just to illustrates that, right? There are lots and lots of tools out there that can help us do that. So for data pre-processing, knowing that okay, I have tools like pandas, numpy, and like I said, you just knowing that okay, these are the processes to do help you write better prompts to be able to generate the code for that. And then as well, there's something called the exploratory data analysis. So that's where the visualization comes in, and then I'll show us in a moment why that is needed. And then for those of us that we maybe the data that you have requires text, so there's also something called vectorization. So that has to be with okay, I'm converting those tests into numerical values. So for instance, ChatGPT was not just trained by dumping all the tests into to train the model. It had to be converted into a numerical method so that the model would be able to understand, because the model understands numbers. And then there are also tools out there that can help you. So what I seek to just give with this brief thing is just helping you know that okay, there are some data pre-processing methods to use, and I've shared some sources here. So there are some sites on data camp, right? So data camp, it helps you know okay, some beginner's guide to pre-process your data. And just like I had shown, some common ones are okay, trying to handle missing values, trying to remove outliers. So these are things that you should just know them, not necessarily the coding itself, that's okay, given the data I need to write the quartile, and those ones you don't know, but just know that there's something called the encoding, there is a scaling, just those ones. Okay, now, having said that, I will do a demo of the data that we have, and then using Google Colab, right? Okay, and I'll be using Grok. So like I said, Grok and then others to be able to generate the code. So this should help address the question that okay, me saying that code generation, you don't necessarily have to know the code itself, right? Because we would be using Grok to be we will be using Grok to generate that. So back to our data set that we have, right? So the data set that I downloaded, the one on GitHub, right? So this was the one on GitHub, right? It has different columns, and if you would remember, the major one that meeting our objective and deliverables was really the sales column. So that is the one that we'll be trying to predict. So now, having gotten your data, and I really prefer working in Google Colab for a whole lot of reasons, like because you can just link it to your drive. So I have my data in my drive, and then it's just easier for someone to do. You don't have to install anything. You just type Google Colab, and then you get an appropriate platform to be able to code. There is also Kaggle as well, but I personally prefer Google Colab. So I just imported the data, and surprisingly, I just want to show. Surprisingly, I just wrote a prompt in Google Colab that can you help me import my data set, and then it just gave me a code to do it, right? So this one I don't really have to rack my brain around it. I just know that okay, there's a code to import my data, and I did it in Google Colab. That was it. So it brought my data set out for me to just see what is inside. So mind us, what we are really trying to predict is the sales, because we are trying to help a business know the sales so that they don't overproduce, just to help with the waste. Now, that back to our third point, how do we pre-process the data, right? Now, I had to use a prompt. So I just asked this, okay, can you help me generate further information from my data set? And then it had to, generate that. But remember that one of the main pre-processing steps is to check whether your data has null values. It's very, very important, right? So me writing this, just a simple piece of code, it helped me know that okay, for all my columns, there are no null values, right? But then for some particular columns, I'm seeing null values. Then I now have to ask it, okay, so what then do I, what then do I do? Looking for techniques to be able to solve all those null values, right? So for me, I just had to fill in the null values with some to fill it with a mean, and then rechecking it now. There are no null values. So right now I have been able to solve that issue of what's missing values just by just by knowing what to do. And another strategy here too is that, right, you could also, like I said, use prompts to be able to find the best data pre-processing method. I'm sorry that this one is clumsy, but I needed to show us something, right? In me prompting my AI model, right, I had to add the str- the structure of the data set, not everything, but probably the first five, for it to see that okay, this is the structure of my data set. Now looking at it, can you now help me format it? So still using prompt, I go back to Grok again, and then like clearly you can see that I now come here and then I tell it that okay, I am using the full data set to make prediction. I want you to give me the best data pre-processing methods to go with. So like I said, you don't really have to know the data like as in what it really entails, but just having a fair idea that okay, there are data pre-processing methods that I need to go with, and then adding a particular sample of your data set to it, and then letting the model now give you. And you can do this, like I said, across all the multiple ones, right? So now it now comes and then tells me that okay, these are some good data pre-processing methods, right? I didn't learn how to code this, but then I know that okay, for me to be able to clean my data or pre-process my data, right, some of the things that I need to consider, some of the things that I need to consider, okay, trying to create time series out of it, handle missing data and coding them. And if you would remember, right from this particular slide, it did this particular website, it talked about data encoding. So clearly we are just heading somewhere. And your main thing is now to copy this thing, bring it back to your code that you have, so the notebook that you are working in, right? And trying to paste it there, right, and seeing if it works. If it doesn't work, it is always an iterative process. You now get it back onto the model that you are looking for. But then all that I really want you to know is that okay, for my data pre-processing step, these are some things that I need to do dependent on my data. If we were working with images, it would have been also been different, that okay, it would have been that we have to augment the data, we have to change the data. So just knowing that okay, once I get my data, I need to pre-process. It does something, it just helps you get your data into a right format. And lastly, another thing today that I want to show, I did talk about exploratory data analysis. Now in Google Colab, you don't even have to code for it. Once you have your Google Colab, you just say that okay, show me some recommended plots. This is important because assuming we were not predicting the sales and we're predicting something else, it helps you know the state of your data, whether it is balanced, whether it is not balanced. So just to inform you. So for those of us beginners here, when someone says that okay, I'm doing exploratory data analysis within my data pre-processing, it basically means that I want to have a visual representation of my data set. I want to see what is inside, just to inform me whether my data is a bit biased. And this is very important, because imagine I'm working with images and I don't check the images. Maybe it could be biased towards a particular demographics, right? So it has a way of also helping you know how to balance it. And once you know that, you can always go back to your prompt and say okay, now I want to balance it. What are the best approach to go with? So that's basically it when it comes to the data pre-processing stage. I just added some links to it just for us to learn, we can read about it and know what to do. Okay, so I hope that helps. I'm moving to the fourth part, but I just want to give us, pause and then be sure that we are, it did follow it. So
Yeah, Dr. Regina, well done. There's a question here.
mhm.
I think that the part that I just finished may be a little bit tough. Let's ask them. Did they understand the part that I just finished? Don't say they should understand. Oh, okay, following. So can you attend to the question there? He said, I have a question that might
Mhm.
sound lame,
Mhm.
but in terms of the coding, is it a general code to achieve a certain solution, or there are different formula lines of code to achieve the same thing? Also, if it's generic, is it not subject to hacking? So I think answer is, or yeah.
Oh, okay, sure. Thank you. Yes. So let me reread it so that I'll be able to answer. So you say that I have a question. Is it like a general code to achieve a certain solution, or there are different formulas? Okay. So to answer the very first part, right? Coding is not like a carving stone. So we don't have like one particular code, like, okay, so if I want to handle missing values, so like I said, I need to write this, how do I put it? I need to write this same particular line of code. So somebody someone can write a line of code, right? So someone can write a line of code. How do I put it? So what I really want to say is that coding is not really like generic. Okay. There may be some similarities. There may be some similarities. Some similarities. So in me trying to handle the missing values, right? So you realize that I went about filling in those values. Another one would say that, okay, I want to drop those. I want to now, instead of using the mean values, I want to use zero as input. So there are various ways in doing it, but then the end goal, which I will come to, is that in training your model to generate the output, in terms of evaluation, are we getting the desired result? So you can give me a problem, the code I will use will be different, right? In as much as there will be similarities, you as well, you would also use another approach, right? But we should still arrive at an evaluation metric that really answers the problem at hand. Please, have I answered that? Okay, sure. Yes, thank you. So just citing one last example, like so for instance, there one thing I always teach my students is it's always good for you to go online, see a code that somebody has done that pertains to yours. But obviously you would have to modify it, right? And in you modifying it, that is when those changes come, right? So the prompt, that generates, maybe Grok would give me for a particular task, it will be different when you also use it. But then the end goal, so always know that the end goal is that whatever you have trained and you have evaluated, it really does what you want it to do. Okay, so let's move on, right? Let's move on to the last part one bit, and then we can now think through. So the fourth one is, now that we've been able to clean the data to get the data into the desired format that we want. Let me share my screen for. Yes. So now that we've been able to clean the data to get the data into the particular format that we want, now the question now is, how then do we select the particular model? So I'm going back to my code that I do have here. Um I'm going back to my code that I do have here. So right now you realize that we've been able to pre-process the data. So like I said, we've been able to encode it, we've been able to scale it now. You know, we've been able to remove missing values. We've done a good bit around this based on the most used ones from literature. Now, how then do we train the model? And in training the model, the selection of the model, always keep in mind that the selection of the model and the training approach, it really depends on the data set that you have, in a sense that the data set and then the task that you want to solve. So the data set that we have, they are they are supervised, in a sense that we have a data set. So let me just show you an example. Our data set has a target that we want to predict, like to be able to do the time series analysis for the food prediction, right? So in this case we call it supervised. So I really want you to know this, so that in case when somebody asks you what kind of data are you working with to be able to solve your model, you say that, oh, I have a supervised data, or I'm going with a supervised machine learning approach or AI based approach. But in situations where your data, it doesn't have a target, you don't even know what you are trying to do. So in this case, you just give the model, right? You want to give the model the whole data set, and then you tell it to maybe do some clustering, some segmentation, or to group them. In that case, you are going with an unsupervised approach. So, and it's mostly used in cases where you have, like, you want to cluster, and mostly for numeric data, right? So if you want to cluster or you want to do an anomaly detection. So sometimes I worked with a telecommunication company where um we wanted to do a fraud detection, right? And they just gave us data. We didn't know what the data was. So in that, you just feed the model into the you just feed the data, and then you allow the model that you will be selecting to be able to cluster them. So you knowing this really helps the kind of data that you have. If you have a prediction, it is if you have a target, it is a supervised. And there are situations where they are both. So you can have a data set that has partially some labeled data as well as unlabeled data, and that is called you know a semi-supervised or a human in the loop approach. And this is the brain behind most current AI systems. But for today's presentation, people still use it, like products still use it to um services to use it. So for the unsupervised one, now back to our data set. So just to show us, right? So our data set has it has series of things, that it has a sales column that we want to predict, right? So automatically we know that it is what an unsupervised approach. So this is what we are trying to predict. We know that it's an unsupervised approach. Now the next question is that, how then do we select our model, knowing the learning process that we want to go to? So for those of us, like, going to do the hackathon, like if you want to build any, AI model, right, there are two main kinds. We have the classical and then the deep learning one. And the classicals are where you have the simple models, and they still work even in today's world. Now there are models that are combining both LLMs and this classical bit, so it still works. It is not outdated. We have models like the SVM, so you just knowing that, okay, there's a classical and there's a deep learning, helps you to be able to write better prompt, to be able to generate the kind of code that you want. And then why are these classical bits very important? Because in terms of computational expenses, so you don't have to really spend a lot when it comes to using higher, training the model for long hours, for long time. So those are computationally expensive, and it's very good for supervised tasks. So if you want to build any products and then you just realize that, okay, the column that I have, the data set I have, it has a particular, it is predictive, right? And it's very good for numerical stuffs, like supervised numerical stuffs, right? But the thing is that they are very, very simple, and they can't really handle complex stuff. So in cases like images, it may not perform so well. So this is where like the deep learning, then the LLMs comes in. So just know the data that you are working with for it to inform you. So if I had gone with the image, I would have been considering an imagery approach like using CNNs, right? Or using, there are lots of them, RNNs, or using a GAN model, a generative models, right? And for now, if you're working with text, okay, so for my PhD, this was where I was more focused on. You have to go with the LLM. So that's where the GPT comes in, Claude. And then the advantage with those ones is that they really have a contextual understanding. So, like I said, the take home is always try to know the data that you are working. If I'm really working with a numeric approach and then it's more supervised, I wouldn't go for these advanced models because they are computationally expensive. But then if I'm really working with text, for text generation, then I can consider choosing those kind of models, right? So, like I said, it's computationally expensive, but then there's a way out, especially if you want, like, as beginners trying to prototype, okay, there are cloud-based services that helps you train such models. And that was why I said I really like the Google Colab. I have exhausted it, but if you are a first timer, I'll just show you now. If you are a first timer and you want to use you want to train maybe GPT model, right? Or to be able to perform your task without having to use the API, which is costly, right? If you sign up the very first time and then you come to the change runtime. I have exhausted mine, right, because I have used the free version. It can give you some free access to, some TPU, some 800, so it gives you some free ones. And for prototyping, it can benefit. So when I started training those large language model, that was what I was using before I exhausted it, and then I have to now purchase I have to purchase, additional computation. So just to show us that there are some free cloud platforms that you can train your model, for just a basic prototype. And then there's also the Kaggle as well, right? Unless it's more advanced and then you would want to now purchase their services. But then it is a good starting point for us to know. Now, in training the model, so the final one before we go to the hands-on, right? So in training the model, like I said, in training a deep learning model, these are I just want you to have the idea that, okay, if I have my data and I'm training the model, these are the stages to go. Like, it does you a lot of good, to be able to write the right prompting in order to generate the code, right? And there's also the PyTorch. You really don't have to start from scratch, right? There are lots of beginners tutorials you can just go to. Okay, just having a fair idea that, okay, this is how PyTorch works, this is how TensorFlow works, right? And then you now select the model. But then the final bit that I want to move on now is for those of us that we really want to go into like the using the LLM, right? There is the Hugging Face websites. Hugging Face has lots and lots of data sets. It has lots and lots of trained models. So these ones are already trained. All that you have to do is just to import it. And they have beginners tutorials, just to help you on that. Now, the breakout session, right? Having showed us, okay, how to now pre-process. I know that this one is a bit clumsy, but then I did that for a reason, right? Having done that, right, now I'm going to prompt my model and then I'm going to say that, okay, now I've done the feature engineering and I've done the pre-processing. Can you now tell me the appropriate model that can be used for the task, right? Still saying that it should meet my objectives and then the deliverables. And then I give it a sample of the pre-processed data that I have done. Back to Grok. So I just copied and pasted this prompt of code into Grok, into Perplexity, and then a whole lot. So I'm just showing that now. Um, so here is that piece of code that you see. I come here and then I'm telling it that okay, I have been able to, so this is the code. I'm done with the feature engineering, the pre-processing. Now can you tell me the right code, the right model to use? And you would realize that it's gives me a particular predictive model to use. And here it tells me that okay, you can use this AI this AI model called the SG boost. So it comes here and then it tells me that, and it gives me the code for it. Okay, so this is the particular code that you are supposed to use. And another thing is that it now even comes back and then suggests other, so here it comes here and then suggests other models I could use and then the rationale behind it. So like I said, the SG boost is very computationally easy, and then it tells me that okay, these are other models. For me, what I would have done like in real life is, just because of time, is that I would have taken all the various models and then tested all of them one after the other. So I would have tried XGBoost, I would have tried every model. So this is a deep learning model. If you remember, I showed that one as well. So I would have done that and then ask it to, generate the code out of it. So for the purpose of this one, the best model it did suggest was what SG Boost. And then I get this code, I bring it back to my notebook that I'm working in, right? So I bring it now back to my notebook that I'm working in, and now begin to train the model with a particular data set that the pre-processed data set. And then it just moves on, as in, and then I start doing the hard bit of coding from there. So within the training process, this is what I want you to take home, right? Within the training process, before you train any AI model, there is always a part of the data that you use for training and you use for testing, right? So I prefer to divide it into three, but just for like the purpose of everyday usage, right? You have to split your data, and I'll show you in the code that Grok gave us, right? So we split the data into training, and then having done that, you need to evaluate, right? So we remember, we want to predict the sales, but how well are we that the model is performing well on this data? The first data is to train the model, but the other two are to help us know how well the model is performing. So that is why it is very important. And then you now define your classification metrics. If it's sorry, your evaluation metrics, what you want to do. So there are loads and loads of them as at the particular tax pattern. Now let me show you something. When I came to Grok, right, I didn't all that I did was to put that code in there. It gave me the particular model that I needed to go with, and it gave me the evaluation metric. So me just knowing that okay, after I've trained the model, after I've splitted the model, I need to know how to evaluate it. It just gives me and then saves the best model, and that is all that I need. Like, we have trained an AI model to be able to do it. That is all. So in this piece of code, so you realize I've splitted the data into training and then testing. And then I come down like this. I use the same code that Grok has given me, right? And then I have the evaluation metric, having trained the model, and then it now saves it for me. So that's all. Now, for in this case, the two evaluation metrics that I'm using are, at the root mean square and then the absolute error. I could go further by, instead of using the SG boost, I could go further and now try maybe using the LSTM approach, right? So I could now come try also using the LSTM approach and seeing what the LSTM will just give me. So now it now depends on your creativity. So just to summarize everything, we've been able, like, this is it. you've been able to train it. And every AI model, like this is the process ChatGPT went to. So there was an evaluation metric. Okay, how well the model was doing. This is the whole process. Just knowing the architecture to just go the architecture to just go through. And once the model performs well, you can now always save that particular model. And then the next stage is now to deploy the model, right? So if you want to prototype it, if you want to have a minimum, viable product or whichever, right? It's now to choose a deployment platform. And the deployment platform is now based on the best model that you have saved and tested, right? So you don't just train the model, but you have to evaluate it and then you just save it. So you now deploy it. And if you remember, a part of our goal, our deliverables was to come up with what a web-based application. So it is at this point that you start thinking, okay, now do I go for it as a web? Do I go for it as an API? Do I go for it as an um as a website? So these are things you need to consider. And for this one, the whole idea where AI comes in is that behind these particular applications are the AI models that you have saved. And if you want, you can collaborate with people. So I'll just show you a demo. Like I'll just show you a demo. So dependent on what you want to do, like there are loads and loads of them. So for our deliverables, it was for us to design a website just to show using the saved model, right? And then this is just a code, right? So that is the final bit. So I just go back to my AI and then I just ask is that okay, now I've saved the model. This is how I have saved the model. Like for me, I like to be very specific so that the model doesn't hallucinate, giving me things that I don't need, right? So I now even ask it, can you show me the best method to deploy? How do I deploy it? And I said, oh, meeting what I have said, my objectives and then my deliverables for a quick demo, right? So this is the code that I used, and then just for the brevity of time, right? A simple demo, right? So I just copied and pasted the code within my collab, right? And then this is just a short demo, right? So now let's say I have a website that is running, background. Like if someone asks me, okay, what did I build? Okay, so I can show the person that okay, this is just a sample website. You can browse this, you can predict the sales as to whether the company is overproducing in order to optimize your inventory. So it can just accept some values, the date, and a whole lot. And to scale it up, right? To scale it up, you can collaborate with other website designers also, and then you can just beautify it or do it on your own. But like I said, this is just a prototype, right? And then the whole idea is that behind this prediction is the saved model that you have used, right? And then that is what makes it better than just it being a website also. So these are some links that I decided to share with us for those who want to deploy. In order to scale it beyond doing a prototype, you can think of hosting it on the cloud, and then AWS has a free one for some time, right? So you can just use it, just to host it for some time, and then as time goes on, as your bucket is full, you can now start paying. So there are lots and lots of tools around us, especially for beginners who want to start building like AI based products, and then you start scaling it as time goes on. So that's what I wanted to share as long as resources. So it's not just to deploy it as a web like I did. You could deploy it as an API. Somebody can, just call it. You could import it as a library. There are so many things. But then the key take home is that it should always be relevant to your objectives and your deliverables, to your project charter, what you had promised the people, or you have promised, let's say if you want to pitch what you have promised that you would be able to give to the people. So that's what I really wanted to share with us. I know it's a lot of idea, especially for beginners, but then I'm sure, with time, like, we would be able to grasp all this. So thank you so much, and I'm open to any questions that you have. Yes, thank you. Okay. Please, any questions? Okay, I'm now going through the code. Okay, it says that, okay, so I think patient said, why do you have to modify the code someone else has used since you are doing the same thing? Yeah. So if it's the same tax, right? So if I'm doing fraud detection, and then the code that I found is really has the same format as my data set, then I can use what the person has done and then make the prediction. But then the thing is, how many data sets? Like, I'm talking about a real world setting. So if you want to build an AI based product, right? Maybe to maybe AI for recycling detection, right? In such niche cases, it's a bit you may find codes that are already available, maybe codes on Kaggle, codes on GitHub that already have, similar to what you want to do, but it would always require a bit of tweak. So just to answer that, it is only in a case that the code that you have is following the same format as your data set, then you wouldn't have to change anything. And then one other thing to think about is the evaluation metric. Sometimes you may use the same code, but then in terms of evaluating, if it's not giving you a good, let's say, output, then you would have to think a bit of changing certain things in there. Please, I hope that answers it. Okay, thank you. Yes, and then I think the next question is, will Grok and Perplexity give you the same results, or do you have to customize your training? Yes. Yes. So w- because it's a generative model, it's hard to have it give you the same output each each particular time, right? So it's not always that it would give you the very same outputs, but then there could always be some similarities in there. Yes. And in terms of customizing your training, right? For for um for a beginner, right? My my whole like, for someone trying to start building an AI product, my whole thing would just be to know the particular training process you want to go, or just access to, suggest the best ones for you. And then you now build on, you start querying it further to be able to build on it. If you're already advanced and then you know the kind of model to do. So for instance, for me, if I'm like, let's say if it's a generative tax, right? I know the kind of LLM I want to go with. I know the approach to go. So I just go straight in and tell it, okay, I want you to do this and this and this and this for me. So it will always depend on what you want to do. But then if Grok suggests something and Perplexity also suggests something, the whole idea is for you to now really sit down and see which one really meets what you do. Once you get that, you can always be asking further questions out of it, and then it goes on and on and on. Please, I hope I've answered you, Kimberly. Yes, and for the training process, yes, I had really wanted to show. So I had wanted to do the same task using the images, but I was also thinking about the time as well, the time constraint. Because if I was going with an image, it means that I'll be using, a deep learning model like CNNs, those kind of advanced models, and thinking about the training time as well, yes. But once you finalize on them, so like I said, you can always either get a code online or just, use Grok or Perplexity, or whichever one that you want to be able to help you. Okay, so I think finally I'll share the deployments here. I'll share that on the page and hopefully share the slides. I think Sheun will do that as well. So yep. So Sheun, please over to you.
Yeah, I'm following. Yeah. So I think when step 4, right? How many steps do you have to go? How many steps do you have to go?
Please, we are done.
Okay, yeah. So how do we go by? So can we have people to ask questions? Questions. Please let's ask questions before we. Yeah. So we did that so that everybody can see how simple this thing can be. I like the question we asked. Can we tweak the codes? And that's why the ChatGPT is there. You just give ChatGPT this. Even for I think when I and Regina were talking yesterday, even for myself, I use part of those code as well. I can put on ChatGPT. ChatGPT, this is this code. Can you tweak it to what I want to do? ChatGPT will also tweak it as well. So this thing is pretty simple, and it just depends on how we can interact with these tools and all of that. So having said this, so that I will not waste our time, let me see what is next. But can we also appreciate our teacher tonight? Can we say thank you? Can we thank? Please let's thank her. Please let's thank our teacher. Let's just chat that. Let's just thank her. So let me see in the chat box. Yeah. Can everybody hear me? Hello, can everybody hear me? Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay, yeah. So just want to share some information so that we can, yeah, we're about to through, right? So yeah, so we want to thank our instructor tonight. So actually she has going to be with us throughout the hackathon, all of that. So yeah. So we've said this. We're going to have more people to join us, but we're going to see whether we can bring whatever we build that day. We're looking at possibility of every group reaching what they build, and then getting like what I can say, like then getting like feedback on what they have built, whether it's somebody that some people can invest on. So it's going to be we're going to build towards people can invest in. So having done all of this pre-hackathon 1, pre-hackathon 2, this pre-hackathon is only meant for 20 persons, 20. Then we are going to put them to four teams. So 5 per each team. We're going to give them a problem. So it's not going to be 12 hours straight away. On I don't know whether do I have this. So on a Friday, I think we're only spending 2 or 3 hours. So on Friday, on the next week Friday, we are meeting on Friday. Friday, we are going to give everybody the Friday again. We are hoping that somebody will talk to us from London. to share their story about building something on AI, all of that, or probably an investor from other ventures who are going to update us. So Friday we're meeting in person in church. We have a hub in church upstairs. We call it Fountain Innovation Hub. So all of us will meet, we network, we meet ourselves. Then after meeting ourselves, we'll now put ourselves into teams. Then after that, we'll now give ourselves we'll bring along some problems. Not that we're going to carry problems. What I mean that we're going to get some problems ahead, social problems, because what Dr. Regina have done today was just to solve a particular problem. Now, actually, maybe I didn't tell Dr. Regina. I just went online and I also prompt, can you give me a problem that's affecting UK? And everything you see Dr. Regina did was just from me prompting on ChatGPT, and I gave her. So she also used ChatGPT to solve it. So it was just a prompting galore. So that Friday, we are going to put everybody into. Well, sorry, we're going to put everybody into teams, and they are only going to do stage 1 on Friday. And Friday, they are going to pitch out the problem, the information they got on ChatGPT, how to solve the problem. Then Saturday, they are now going to come and finish everything on Saturday. We're going to try to get two speakers in the late part of Saturday. We're going to get one of us who have received maybe close to £1 million to come and teach how to pitch. That will be like a 1 hour part of it, so that whatever we have done on Saturday, we're able to package it well. Then we also will leave the team again to keep working on what their product maybe come up with. So on Sunday evening, maybe 2 or 3 hours, they will now come and pitch those things in front of some judges and got some feedback, and that's all. So the aftermath of this event will now hand over to Simplex Lab. They have a incubator stuff and all of that. Along the way, Creed will still show some support. We should still be showing some support. And something happened Thursday, and I think Sister Regina was there. I hosted some guys, the Estonian people, yesterday on Thursday, and they came with a free ticket to Tallinn. One of the biggest events in the whole of Estonia. So we also expect that some of the startups that are going to come out from this will definitely be posting them to some events where they can pitch their idea, and they can even get some funding, and they can even get some visibility, because we never can tell. Because the guy who won on Thursday came all the way from Glasgow. He said that he was told that there's an event in Aberdeen, and he came to Aberdeen to pitch a simple idea. And I was not the one even the one who voted for him. The audience with the white and the black, they voted for the guy, and the guy is going to get free. So I want to also say that we never can tell where this thing is going. That's why we make it open-ended, and we only trust God that God will help us. So if you are, I don't know what we're going to pick. So maybe we're going to bring another link for registration for this hackathon. But this hackathon, just one, I think 2 conditions to enter this hackathon. And one of the first conditions is that you have to watch all the 2 videos. The first video for last week and the video for today. If you don't watch those 2 videos, it's gonna be like a stress for us during the hackathon, because like what Sister Regina have taught us today, it's going to cause little stress. So I believe to reduce for us to reduce all the stress, that's why we took pain to pass through these 2 pre-webinars. So I think only one condition: just watch these 2 videos. Once you have watched these 2 videos, then now apply for this hackathon. Then almost everybody that applied, that registered, will be selected. But we're going to bring another link which we are going to share in church. We're going to share also on this on LinkedIn. So all of that. I don't know if there's anything that I can. So what I want to say: stay inspired, never stop creating. So can I give opportunity for questions before we round up tonight? Please, let's ask questions. Please, let's ask questions. Can everybody hear me? Sister Regina, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes, please, we can
Yeah.
hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah. So let's have questions. Let's have feedbacks before we go tonight. And I want to thank everybody for joining. This is a very actually I and Regina have met how many times? 2 or 3 times now. Everything we've done